Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.
And I listen to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Indeed you are, people. Indeed you are. Listen to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Welcome all to the live call-in show. There is no way on earth you lot are keeping me up longer than, what's the time right now? 10:15? Absolutely no way is this going longer than 11 o'clock. 45-minute call-in show. Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast live call-in show. Admin, as usual, my name is Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. By now, if you're here for this live show, you're supposed to know all that information already. You can see on the ticker tape below. Find us on Twitter. Find us on Instagram at Carib Cricket. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. You know the drill. If I was one of those YouTubers, I'd say smash that like button. I think that's what you're supposed to say. You know, all of that jazz. If you'd like to support us financially, you can become a patron of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket for as little as $2 of whatever your currency is. As you can see, I'm sporting the Caribbean Cricket Podcast international test cap. Test cricket is on. We have some test cricket going on, so I thought, you know what, got to wear my test cap for this particular show. And here we are. So if you'd like to buy one, I just sold another one earlier today, actually. So actually, let me get my box. 1 second. There are approximately how many left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 left, 8 remaining. Actually, 7. That's a lie because I have to keep one behind for someone. There's 7 Caribbean Cricket Podcast international test caps remaining. So if you want to get one, you snooze, you lose. Frank Lucas says, shout out the Discord for sure. We started a Discord channel. So if you look at the link in the description of the video, you'll see the link to our Discord channel. I started that on Sunday, I think, and immediately got my profile disabled by Discord. So I had to create a new profile to go on my own Caribbean Cricket Podcast channel, the Discord channel that I'd created. But big up everybody who's joined that. Good chat going on over there, particularly during the day's play. So if you're somebody who's familiar with Discord or if you like, I don't know, I guess it's I don't know what Discord really is, to be honest. It seems to be like a live chat room. Like you can just, it's effectively an equivalent of WhatsApp, I guess, but for people who are within the Caribbean Cricket Podcast community who just want to talk about cricket all day long and stuff. So if you want to join that, again, go in the description of the video and you can find that. Anyways, enough of all that chit chat. I said this is a 45-minute show, so we need to get into it. I'll drop the link in the descriptor soon, but let's just recap the day. So day 1 of the first test between South Africa and the West Indies. Everyone's forgotten, but there are actually World Test Championship points, percentage points on the line. We can't win the World Test Championship, but we can end higher than our current 6th position. So points are actually on the line. So just a quick recap of the day. South Africa ended the day on 314 for 8. And I guess this video is really all about this discussion is really all about who won that day. Who won the day? The obvious thing to say, or the easy thing to say, is our West Indies won the day. But did we really? If South Africa chose to bat, when you choose to bat, irrespective of a track that you choose to bat on, what's the minimum total you're looking to put up in an ideal world if you choose to bat? And I think whatever your answer is to that question dictates if you think South Africa won the day or not. A lot of native South Africans have kind of got in touch with me and said Centurion is going to, the track is going to speed up as the test goes on. At lunchtime or tea time, they did an interview in the studio and Sean Pollock said that this was the best batting track he'd seen at Centurion in the last 12 to 15 years. So what I guess I'm saying is, until South Africa bowl, we don't really know how flat that track is. Until they bowl, we don't really know how badly West Indies bowled in the first two sessions. And then I guess also what people have to, I always like to say, when you look at like a day and extrapolate a day, I always like to say, how many of the wickets did we actually earn? And if there were, and I think you have to weigh it up. So of the 8 wickets, how many were earned wickets and how many were South Africa giving their hand away? And I think when you look at it that way, you get a bit more of an insight into how true the deck played and how flat or placid the track was to bat on. Certainly at 221 for 1, to go from 221 for 1 to end the day at 314 for 8, you have to say that South Africa fumbled the bag. They were in prime position to essentially bat us out of the first test in the first innings. And they really should be on what? There's no way they should have lost 8 wickets today. But I mean, okay, let me pick some comments. So Anthony says South Africa definitely won the day. I don't know about definitely. I really don't know about definitely. I don't even know how you can make a definitive comment like that, because until we bat, and we could be awful, well, South Africa could skittle us out. But I just don't know if you can definitively say, yeah, South Africa won that one. We definitely didn't win it, but I don't think you can definitively say that they won it. When you lose 8 wickets for 314 runs and you were 221 for 1, you didn't win the day. You might have got the better of it. You might have marginally got the better, but definitely won the day. I don't know about that one still. I think you have to say definitely. I think you have to wait until West Indies bat. And this is one of the key points I wanted to say right at the start of the show. This maybe this has always been the way sport has been, but this is my pet peeve about watching sport. People love to make grand proclamations about what's going on in a match before they've let the match breathe, and particularly cricket. Football, I get it slightly. I get it more so in football because it's a 90-minute game, and maybe at like the 60-minute mark of a football game, you can go, well, boy, match is kind of going like this, the team shit, and so on and so forth. But in cricket, I always get confused when people are like, oh, West Indies, oh, this is terrible. At 221 for 1, yeah, it was looking over sticky and over rubbish. But by the end of the day, it was 314 for 8. My overall sentiment being, sometimes just let the sport marinate. Swill it around in your head a little piece and let the game breathe. Let the game breathe and then make your big proclamations at the end of the day. How silly did some of you look when you were saying this is dreadful, West Indies are rubbish, and then they take 7 wickets effectively in the final session to drag themselves back into the game? Let the game breathe, man. Let it breathe. It's not every day big proclamation about what's going on in a cricket match and the match ain't even over yet. Particularly Test cricket. Got to let that shit breathe. How many people said that England had already won that Test match against New Zealand? They didn't let the match breathe. Let the match breathe. Anything could happen. I'm not trying to say that West Indies will beat South Africa. We could do, but we have to let it breathe. Who knows what could happen? Who knows what could happen when we come to bat? For all we know, South Africa did not maximize the conditions, and for all we know, the track is actually flat. We just got to let it breathe, boy. So that's kind of my take on it. So anyways, what are we saying? So South Africa 314 for 8. Just run down the scorecard. I know we know it, but just in case anybody's watching it who wasn't privy to what happened during the day. So Dean Elgar and Aidan Markram put on a 141-run partnership before Elgar, did he top edge one? I mean, who did Blackwood put down for 24 again? Was it Elgar or was it Markram? Anyways, Blackwood dropped, I think it was Elgar. I think Blackwood dropped Elgar on 25. And anyways, they went on to put on a big partnership. And then I think Elgar top edge one down to Blackwood. Blackwood made one of those kind of catches where the ball's kind of falling over the back of your head and you fall backwards and take it. So Blackwood dropped the easy catch. And then actually caught a difficult catch, and that was the first wicket. So 141 was the first wicket. Tony Dezorzi came in. He was run out inexplicably so. So I think you can. The reason why I'm going through these wickets is because I think you have to make a note of who gave their hand away. I think Elgar gave his away. I think he thought, boy, this West Indies bowling is rubbish, and it was, to be fair. I thought our bowling in the first what, definitely the first session, and maybe half of the second session, or maybe 3/4 of the second session. Let me just think about the bowling. Was it wayward? People, get in the comments. What do you think about the bowling in the first 1.5 sessions or 1 3/4 sessions? It wasn't. I thought that. Okay, I'm gonna be fair here. I actually thought their line, generally speaking, was okay. Hear me out. I think the line was okay. I just think the lengths weren't good. So that's my. I think that's my take. I'm trying to think it. I think the line was okay. The lengths weren't accurate to trouble the batters, and I think it took them at least over half the day to assess conditions properly and work out what was the appropriate line and length to bowl on the track. So I don't think so. I think when I was like reading a lot of people going, "Oh, this bowling is rubbish," I don't think it was rubbish per se. It just wasn't threatening. And it wasn't like they gave away loads of loose deliveries. I mean, Roach and Gabriel got taken to the cleaners early doors, but it wasn't like just loose delivery after loose delivery. It just wasn't, there wasn't a lot of consistent, what do I want to say here? There wasn't a lot of consistent restricting innings. You know, like, no, there wasn't any building of pressure, I guess. No bowler, maybe Alzarri in early doors, but no bowler was able to build consistent pressure. But that doesn't mean that they were completely loose either. It just meant that there was never a period of time in the first 1 3/4 sessions where I felt that South Africa were under pressure. Is that fair? Is that fair? Let me see what some comments are saying. Stennard George says they had some good balls that beat the bat. Plenty of time. However, they were inconsistent in line and length. When they got it right, they got it right. Yeah, I agree. Oren says Holder's past is best with his bowling. I think this is a conditions argument, you know. But we can come back to that later. Crick Lover says Holder didn't look good. Kelly G says bounce and swing was available. It will be a tough batting innings for West Indies. Yeah, I think it will be tough for us when we come to bat. I think if you're willing to dig in, though, and this is why I'm saying a lot will depend on Craig and Tage. If you're willing to dig in and put a price on your wicket, I think it's the type of wicket. Okay, put it this way. I don't think that it's the type of wicket yet where there's a wicket with your name on it, or there's a ball with your name on it. I think if you're willing to dig in, play each ball on its merit and tough it out, I think there's runs to be made. I don't think it's a free-flowing track at all. I think a couple balls will beat the bat, but at this moment in time, from my perspective, it is a batter's track. It is not a bowler's track. There's bits in it for the bowlers, but at this moment in time, it's a batter's track. But until we see the South African bowlers get a go on it, we don't know if West Indies didn't utilize it as best as possible. We have to remember that South Africa won the toss and South Africa chose to bat. As Stennard says here, the pitch started slow. Yeah, I agree. And it did get a bit quicker. But then did it get quicker, or did the West Indies bowlers adjust to the right line and length that they needed to bowl on that track? I suspect the South African bowlers won't take as long to work out the right line and length to bowl on the track. So anyways, as I was saying, so Elgar gave his away. Tony Dezorzi gave his away with some poor running. Temba got a good nut from Joseph, LBW in the first 2 balls. Who was after that? Markram got a Yorker. So those 2 wickets were earned by Alzarri Joseph. Who went after Markram? Klaasen gave his away. Tried to hoik. Who did he try to hoik? Gabriel. And then Gabriel bowled a quick bumper weren't even that quick. But Gabriel bowled a bumper. Klaasen tried to hook it, gave his away. So I make that 3 wickets given away, 2 wickets earned. After Klaasen, Muthasamy didn't offer a shot to Roach, LBW. I think that was batter error. I don't think that was a particularly brilliant delivery from Roach. The batter shoulder arms to one ducking in. So that's 4 given away, 2 earned. After Muthasamy, Keegan Peterson. How did he get out again? Oh, Mayer's got him LBW. I'll give us that one. Mayer's trapped him on the crease. And then Rabada nicked off. I think that was a weak shot. Rabada nicked off to Holder. So I make it 5 of those wickets. South African batters will look back and go, I gave that away. And I think 3 of them, I think we can say, yeah, we earned those ones still. I always like to look at it like that. Again, if you disagree, get in the comments, let me know. But I always like to look at it like that. But ultimately, like I say, to go from South Africa bossing proceedings and being 221 for 1, or for 2 when De Zorzi fell to ending the day on 314 for 8, it's an excellent fight back by the West Indies to put them in the game. For that fight back to matter, though, they've got to get the last 2 wickets early tomorrow morning. I don't think we can afford South Africa to make anything more than 350 max. You know how as West Indies we love to give wicket, we love to make tail enders have the best day of their lives. Well, who put your hand up in the comments if you see West Indies give any tail ender in another team the best day of their life. We love to do it. So as much as I'm saying we shouldn't let South Africa make anything more than 350 max, Kurtzer could hit 72 tomorrow because we love to give them their best day. So it's got to be free. I'm willing to go. Cricket Lover is saying it shouldn't be more than 330. I'm willing to accept that we're gonna give someone a really good day in the morning. So 350 max before we get our chance to bat. So anyways, yeah, I think that's pretty much the synopsis of the day. Who had a good day today? Alzarri Joseph bowled really well. 16 overs, 3 for 60. Where I don't know if anybody remembers a video I did. It might have been a live where I made the comment that we're getting much closer. It might have, maybe I put it on Twitter. Maybe it was a tweet. But recently I made a comment where I said we're getting closer and closer to the point where Alzarri Joseph becomes the dominant pack leader for us in Test cricket. And the reason why I'm mentioning it now is obviously he had a good day today, but I'm also mentioning it because somebody replied to me on Twitter, because I think I must have put it on Twitter as well. And someone replied and said, how can you say that about a bowler who's not even taken a Test fifer? And I said, I hear you. But the reason I'm making that point about Alzarri is because Alzarri's improvement in Test cricket in the last, I'd say certainly the last year, maybe a year and a half, has been brilliant. We'd always seen it in like limited overs crickets. That was never anything new. But for those who remember Alzarri when he first came on the scene as a 19-year-old, he started off strong. I think 2019 England tour, he was good, and then he fell off. He kind of lost himself in Test cricket. In the last year, I think he has found his true form and he's understood his game with the red ball. And I think we're getting to that stage where we're going to have a changing of the guard. Not yet, but we're getting there. We're slowly inching to where Roach and Gabriel will be phased out and Zari and Seals will probably be the dominant pack leaders. I don't know who will go first out of Roach and Gabriel, but you can see the changing of the guard happening live in front of our eyes. So we're getting closer to that point where Alzarri has to become the guy. And I thought he showed that again today and the way you start to see it is where you start to see situations. Because, sorry, I'm getting on and waffling on a bit here, but I really want to go into this point. What has changed for Alzarri is that you go back 2 years or so, and Alzarri was always the 4th bowler. Like, we gave him the ball when nothing else was working. And my issue with that was always that it meant that Alzarri's role wasn't really defined within our bowling attack. He was just the other guy in the bowling attack who got the ball when we kind of, well, it's your turn now, I guess. Whereas now, I think we turn to Alzarri and say, yeah, you're the guy. You are the guy. We want you to go get the wickets. And it's about role definition, and it's about, I say this a lot about football players. It's about saying to a player, we have faith in you. We're turning to you because we believe you can turn the game. We believe that you can change the game. And that's a really subtle role definition that has changed for Alzarri. Even today, he took the new ball. A really subtle role change that has taken place in front of our eyes, where he's no longer the, okay, it goes Roach, it goes Gabriel, then it goes to Holder, and then Zari gets a ball. Now it's, no, Zari, you're our go-to guy. Where you're the guy we think that can actually break partnerships. Big up Alzarri Joseph. We'll give him his flowers. It's the changes happening in front of our eyes. So yeah, let me put the link. Let me put the link in the live. Anybody who wants to come on, come talk your shit. 1 second. Let me just get the link, people. Use the secret. I'm actually putting something else in the live first, just in case anybody wants to use the super chat icon. So that message, I meant to pin it, and I forgot to pin it at the start. So if anybody's like, why is this guy trying to talk about super chat icon? Listen, it's a live thing, What? You don't think I can't do it as well? If everybody else can do it, then I must do it as well. But anyways, let me put the link. Let me put the link in the live. If you want to come on, come talk your stuff. Here we go. Right, the live link is in the chat. I should really go and pin it, Let me go open the YouTube page. I'm going to mute myself for a second, people. This is going to be mad. 1 second, people. I'm muting myself. Anybody who wants to come in on the live chat, click the link. Okay, yeah, I've unmuted myself. Sorry, I had to pin stuff to make it a bit easier. Gawain Freitas says, anyone got access to the highlights? Come on, man, help Gawain out, people. Give him a link in the chat to go watch the live highlights. Join our Discord page or channel, Gawain. I'm sure somebody's probably put the link in the Discord page. So you can join that as well. All right, cool. Mr. Lover's in the background. Hakeem's in the background. Anybody else get in the background now? I'll see you when it touches 11 o'clock. And you lot try to keep me here like I ain't got bed to go to. Watch when I just lock off this live. Anyways, how many likes are going on? Demo says 30 likes and 93 watching. Hit the like button. Yeah, hit the like button for real. Hit it, people. Algorithms and all that. Anyways, let me bring on Mr. Lover. He's first up. He's first up on the live show. Let me bring him on. Yes, Mr. Lover. What are you saying?
Hey, can you hear me, Mash?
All good, all good.
Okay. I just want to say good job to the guys with the fight back today. Also, I would like to say that there's some things we need to work on, especially in the slip cording and the gully area. We need to tighten up that spot. Also, we need to find a way to get Alzarri bowling like 6 to 10 overs on the track. I think Craig Bassett made 2 mistakes by taking him off early. And another thing is, why do he keep Chase on so long after the break?
Yeah, so let's go into that Chase one first, because I think obviously I was at work, so I was dipping in and out of the commentary here and there, but obviously always had the actual images on the screen. And at one point, I think it was after whichever breakthrough we made, maybe it was when 4 wickets had gone down, and I think the commentators were saying, why have they kept Chase on? Why have they not immediately gone back to Gabriel and Roach? And do you know what? I don't think I'm even gonna answer the question per se, What I'm gonna put back to you, Mr. Lover, is do you think Craig's a good captain in terms of how he uses his bowlers and his field place? And I mean generally, whether you're critical of what went on today in some aspects, overall, how do you rate his captaincy in terms of changing his bowlers, using his bowlers? bringing people on at the right time. Because I think he's better than Holder. I think he's more aggressive, maybe progressive is the right word than Holder. But I note that people often are critical about his bowling changes. What do you think about his captaincy in general?
In general, I would give him like 85%. There's still 15% he needs to work on, which would be confidence in terms of keeping a bowler and knowing when to change him. Number 2, which bowler to bowl where and when. Number 3, when to be attacking from when to be defensive. For instance, Alzarri was bowling and one ball went to the slips. Bam.
Yeah.
He strengthened the slip corner instead of just waiting to see what's going to happen. I think as well, when Blackwood dropped the catch off of Myers, that was a bit unlucky, but still, somebody of Blackwood caliber should have taken that catch.
100%. I agree with you on that. Were you surprised that he didn't bowl two people actually? Were you surprised he didn't bowl Mayers more? And were you surprised that this, because I said this on Twitter at one point in the day when we were catching licks, I said, how comes he's not turned to Reefer yet? Now, I'm not trying to pretend that Reefer is any kind of groundbreaking match-winning bowler, but when we were getting no joy and it was 200 for 1, you've got a left-arm bowler who just offers a different kind of angle. Were you surprised that Reefer didn't get an over when we were struggling?
Honestly, yes, I was surprised, but still I didn't really expect much because they say they're looking at him as a pure batsman. So I was saying maybe they're not going to bowl him that much until this thing gets out of hand. Also, with the Myers case now, I'm really disappointed that they took so long to bring him on. I thought they should have brought him on in the first 15 overs when the ball was still new and was getting movement through the air.
Yeah, so this is the interesting thing. So for those who don't know, so Carl Mayer's return today, 10 overs, 2 maidens, 1 for 23. Best economy in the side today, 2.3. I can only assume it's a workload thing with Carl Mayers and they don't want to over bowl him. But I thought Mayers got more movement than Holder, Roach, Gabriel, and yet he bowled significant. I'm not trying to say he should be bowling more than anybody else, but I agree with you in so much as Mayers for me was the most likely bowler to get lateral movement just because of his ability to manipulate the ball. So yeah, I'm surprised he didn't get a few more overs, particularly when he was looking to control proceedings and Chase was bowling so much. Why not bring Mayers on, who might be a bit more threatening and also control the game? But again, it may be workload.
Also, I still question the selection of Kemar Watt in the first match. I would have rather see somebody like Akin Jordan who can move ball through the air, off the pitch in both directions.
Yeah,
what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we did the video. Myself and Santoki did the video. What was it, Sunday? And I said to Santoki that I thought Roach and Gabriel would play, just because I just figured it's the first test. You go with your most experienced side. I think if Roach doesn't get any more joy in this test, I don't think he'll play in the second one. Gabriel will play because Gabriel offers express pace. But I think Roach could well be, I don't know if rested is the right word. If Moti's fit for the second test, Roach isn't going to play. If Moti's not fit, I think there is going to be a decision to be made between Roach and Jordan in terms of if they feel. I don't know if anyone saw that Roach's away record, like he takes his wickets at like 40, whereas at home he takes his wickets at 21. So at some point we have to start looking at the data and saying, maybe we don't just pick the experienced guys because it might not be right for conditions.
Also, another thing to consider in the second match now is the workload management of Shannon Gabriel since he's playing in the ODIs as well.
Well, in that case, then if that's the case, and I'm gonna go to Hakeem next after this, Miss Lover. But if that's the case, then you're looking at making 2 changes in the second test, because obviously we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But if you're saying workload management for Gabriel, then you're bringing in Jordan for Gabriel, and then if Multi's fit, you're bringing in Multi for Roach. I just don't know if I see them doing 2 change. Let's see how this test pans out first. We've got plenty of we've got at least 3 more days of cricket before we have to make those decisions. But it's one thing about, listen, Mr. Lover, I need to bring up this. Everyone's just in the background trying to say they want to chat like I don't have a bed to go to. So I'm gonna have to bring on
one more
some
thing
other
before
guests.
you leave. One more thing before I leave.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning, I need to see Alzarri Joseph and Shannon Gabriel take the new ball and go full on pace and try to get the last 2 wickets.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's fair enough. I think new ball straight away. Knowing Craig, they'll give 1 over to like Roston Chase at the beginning of the day just to see what happens. And then I think next over, Joseph and Gabriel. Hopefully they don't lose their heads though and just try bounce out the tail ender. And then next thing you know, Kurtz has hit a maiden century. So we'll see. We'll see what they do. But listen, Mr. Lover, I'm gonna go to the next guest.
Have a good one.
Yeah, take it easy, yeah? Cool. Right, before I bring on Hakeem, people, just something I want those in the comments and anybody coming on to also consider. I was on Cricket Fanatics show. No, sorry, when I was on it, I wasn't on it. I was watching it, sorry. Earlier today. If you don't know about Cricket Fanatics, people, really good content providers about South African cricket. If you don't know them, go into YouTube, type Cricket Fanatics magazine, and you'll find them. And that they're basically like the South African equivalent of what we do. Is probably the best way to say what they do. But I'd say they're probably better, to be fair. But anyways, the point is, on their show, I was listening to like the South African kind of discussion about how they felt the day went, and I was looking in their comment section. And it led me to ask this question. How did I phrase the question again? What did today really show? Did it show up South Africa's brittle middle order? Did it show that we just adapted to conditions as the day went on? And there was a third thing I said. Was it that we just adapted to conditions better as the day went on? Was South Africa's batting weak? Or South Africa's middle order weak? There's a third thing now which I can't even remember, but I just wanted people to consider that. What was the overriding narrative today? Did South Africa throw it away, or did we get better? Everyone's going to say, "Oh, Mash, it's a bit of both." But I'm actually asking you the question: what I was, because a lot of the kind of South African answers were, "Well, boy, we knew that there'd be some middle order issues, and it kind of came to fruition." But I don't know if that's because we started bowling better, or if they're the way that South African cricket is at this moment in time. They've essentially picked a brand new team. I'd gone on One World Sports Radio a couple of days ago before the series started and said I think this test series will come down to whose middle order is weaker. And I don't know if this just showed that South Africa still have that issue of not for a long time now of not being able to put up substantial runs. So I don't know. It's one to consider though, people. Anyways, let's move on. Hakeem, let's bring Hakeem on. Yes, Hakeem, what are you saying?
What are you saying, Mash? How you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Yeah, good. I thought to answer your question, I think both teams, I guess we can say, besides England, India, Australia, most of the other teams in Test cricket kind of in some form of transition, I guess we can say. So
Yeah.
they are weaker than those teams, and they do have their own frailties. I think so. It will play out in the remainder of the days to see whether South Africa left a few runs short, or we did very well to come back into the game. The worrying thing, I think, for us is that South Africa's strongest part of their team is their bowling.
Yes.
So if we know in Test cricket 300 is a comfort zone. That's most teams feel as if they can defend or work with 300. So I know for a fact South Africa, they believe 300 is pretty comfortable. And even listening to, I think Markram spoke after the day's play, and he was saying, obviously, given this thought, you know, they were probably looking for more, but it was kind of, he seemed content. He was just like, cool. I mean, maybe he was content with his performance and, having been out for a while, but he seemed a bit content knowing that, with the bowling that they have, 300 is still a good enough score. So I think South Africa left runs on the board, not to discredit us, but
Yeah.
I think they did leave a few runs on the board. And I would say credit to us in the sense that I think their two best batters made runs.
Yes.
And then the others didn't make any runs. So I guess we did our job in that aspect where if their two batters, the problem is their two batters made runs so quickly. You know what I mean? And they made big scores. So I think that's probably part of the issue in that aspect of it. I was sad to know that Moti was injured. And he couldn't play. So I'm not going to berate the selectors or the captain for not playing a spinner in the game. Obviously, it's circumstances to why he couldn't play, but overall the comeback was very good. I didn't like the section where Chase was bowling. I guess everybody didn't like that section. Um, where Chase was bowling, where, as you said, Mayers could have bowled or Reefer could have bowled given the condition. But I think at the start we were kind of just adjusting to the conditions because half of this team, pretty much most of this team, have never toured South Africa, and a lot of
Yeah.
this bowling unit haven't. I guess you can say the bowlers have. So most of our bowlers probably have, but we don't tour them enough. You know what I mean? So there isn't a familiarity. So it probably played in us, taking a while to get into the game itself.
Yeah, so a couple of points there to address. So yeah, our last test tour of South Africa was 2015. So it's been a long time, which says a lot about just, well, we know what the global concerns are around the game in general. I guess there's an argument to say, I mean, Alzarri was in the SA20, Mayers was in the SA20. Was Holder in it? Or was Holder? I think Holder was Holder. Yeah, Holder was in it, wasn't he? So I guess there was some level of acclimatization. But yeah, like you say, it's a test match, and that takes a certain level of acclimatization all the same. There was another point. Oh yeah, the point you made about Elgar and Markram scoring runs up top. And this is the thing, and it feels ridiculous to say it, given that Tage is only going to be batting his 8th or 9th test match innings. But you kind of feel like the game is going to be set up the exact same way for us, or has to be set up the exact same way.
Yep.
If Craig and Tage go deep, we're in the game.
Yeah.
If Craig and Tage go early, well, boy, anything could happen from there, because we just don't have the weight of runs from Reefer to Blackwood to Mayers to Chase. Anything could happen.
Yeah.
Did you catch my drift? So it feels like unnecessary pressure, but it is what it is. We have to hope that Craig and Tage lay a platform, that's a similar kind of platform that Elgar and Markram laid for South Africa, because it took the pressure off the middle order their middle order to have to make big runs. And of course, they didn't make any big runs. But the point is, it took the pressure off them to have to do so.
Yeah, definitely. I think also the reality of it is Elgar and Markram are better batters than all of our batters. So, and respectfully, and I know Markram just got back into the team, and I know they've been having issues as far as whether he should open or bat at 4, or in my opinion, I don't know why he was ever dropped to begin with. I think he's a really good player, and he has shown that. But I think what you brought up as far as the South African side of it is important, in the sense of, because South Africa was at such a level cricket-wise years ago, to them, even as good as the bowling is, and they know their bowling can keep them in any game, the batting is what's letting them down. But for us, the batting as well is letting us down. And I think as much as Roach has done for us in his stint, I don't think Roach is as good a bowler away from home.
Yeah.
But he had to play today because there was no Moti, and they in theory, I don't think they were going to just throw Jordan into the game itself.
No, you could under no circumstance in the first test of our first trip to South Africa in 8 years are you going to just throw Jordan in when you've got Kemar Roach with his 250 plus test wicket. That it wouldn't make any sense whatsoever. But I agree with you that essentially there's going to be a lot of difficult decisions to be made about Kemar going forward. And I say this respectfully. It may just be that we leave Kemar for home test matches and England, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because I just don't know who we got next. India at home, then Australia. Like, okay, so when we go to Australia at the start of 2024, Kemar can't go. There's no point. Like, there literally is no point to taking him.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So a changing of a guard should probably start with that Australia series at the beginning of 2024. By then, Jaden Seals would be fit again anyways. Listen, Hakeem, thank you for coming on. I can see everyone heard 11 o'clock and like last orders at a bar, they all think they can run in. Try and get in on the show. So let me go to the next person, Hakeem.
All right, bless up.
All right, no worries. Cool. Thank you for coming on. Oh, hold on. Demo, I'll put you on by accident. One sec. I've got to bring Faraz on first and then I'm coming to you, Demo. You know, Demo said last time that I should put more than one person on the screen at the same time. I might have to try that today, you know. Anyways, Faraz, what are you saying?
Oh, good morning, Mash. How are you?
I'm good, man.
Yeah, what a comeback that was from the West Indies. I was watching a fair bit of it on Foxtel yesterday. I think South Africa was 70 with that loss. I think they were consolidating well, and I thought that they'll probably go on to bat for the whole day, which they did, but considering they were 221 for one and how West Indies pulled it back, that is incredible. I will say that as much as it is an incredible comeback with the ball, like West Indies still have to go out there and take the final 2 wickets because Marco Jansen can bat a bit, and you sort of want momentum to be with you. So you don't want South Africa crossing 350.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. I don't know. I mean, I've got Ravi in the background who's going to be coming on soon. Who can give us a dual South African and West Indian perspective. But I'll be asking him from the South African perspective because I don't know if Kurtzer can hold a bat or not. I know Jansen definitely can. So I don't know what the.
I mean, he's hit 2 nice shots before. He's already got up to a consoling start, I guess. So, but I'm not too sure on about him.
Yeah, so I don't know how they're going to strategize tomorrow morning in terms of going. Who I don't know. I've seen so many times that West Indies just need to get the tail enders out and wrap things up quickly, and I don't know, man.
It's a problem with these bottom tier sides with Bangladesh, West Indies, Sri Lanka. They struggle to take the last few wickets. They'll get on a roll, but momentum just swings away from you.
And to be fair, that's why their performance in the last session today was actually impressive because there's been plenty of times where you've seen West Indies fight back. I don't know, take 5 wickets, and then they've let the lower order and the tail actually put on another 150. So this was actually a rare day where it's like, oh, they're actually taking wickets and then another wicket and then another wicket and then and that maybe that's why it also made me think. So who's doing the good thing here? Is it us or is it South Africa's weakness? And that's why I was trying to debate because we rarely see this with the West Indies where we actually chip away.
Even with South Africa at home, you've never seen a collapse like this before on any sort of day. Like they were at most, you probably think they'll lose a few more wickets, like maybe nip one to the keeper before stumps, but they lost half their side. I think Bavuma went out for a dud. Keegan Patterson, Clarkson, like these guys are class acts at home. I think Markham played really well, but I think once they got him out, West Indies went on a bit of a roll. But like the interesting question is that I still think that if West Indies don't like turn up with the bat, this could still be a good enough score.
Yeah, I think so. So what? Let's say South Africa get to 330. Let's just be
Right.
optimistic and say tomorrow morning they put on like 20 odd more runs, 330. I wouldn't be shocked if West Indies only made 250 in response. I don't want to believe that's what's going to happen, but I think we've got to be realistic. Okay. But again,
I don't think it's the worst thing realistically to put 250 on the board, but in South Africa having an 80-run lead, that's probably
it's game over. It's game over at that stage. The only way West Indies can avoid defeat in this test has to be putting up a good first innings.
So
there's no other way.
If you're Chandapal and like Craig Bartlett tomorrow morning, are you trying to sort of play a bit of attacking, try to get a few runs every over, 4 or 5 at run ball, or are you just trying to play defensive and try to like wide down the South African bowlers and get down to the score and try it for a draw, or like you generally believe if West Indies can start, they can win the test match?
Okay, so this is what I predict will happen. Let's say we're within half an hour tomorrow, right? I think by lunch, in a perfect world, this is what happens. By lunch, West Indies will be 40 without loss. No, that's too much. No, sorry. They'll be 30 without loss from 23 overs. That's how I think this is going to go. I do not see Craig and Tage trying to counter-attack or trying to play free-flowing cricket. I think they will just dig in. I think Craig makes no bones about this. I think Craig's whole attitude to test cricket is you can't lose if you don't lose your wicket. Right. And if it means that you have to bat 400 balls to score 100 runs, Craig's willing to do that. It's just whether this is the track to do that on. And like go on,
sorry to interrupt you, mate. But have South Africa chosen any like spin options here? I've seen the bowling. No. There's like Jansen, Rabada, Noki.
Technically, their spinner is it Muthasamy? I think that's how you say it. I think when Ravi comes on, he'll correct me if I've got it wrong. But I think he's their batting. He's their equivalent of Chase. Their batting all-rounder who can bowl a bit of spin.
But won't put any pressure. Right.
Yeah, so they opted not to play Maharaj because the assumption going into the test was that Centurion was going to be pace like fire. Now, like I say, my only concern is day one didn't look like pace like fire to me, but that probably is because day one's the best day to bat at Centurion.
100%. And especially on a good wicket, because the pitch will deteriorate later when the day goes on.
I will defer to my South African expert as the next caller to let me know, because I could be chatting a whole bag of nonsense about Centurion.
But I think it's always the point about South Africa batting first is that West Indies have to bat last on this, and batting last in South Africa is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, well, we'll see what day we end up batting last on this particular track.
I've got to go a bit off topic today. I'm just going to ask you, like, Bangladesh and England are participating in an ODI series. Who do you think is going to win that series? What will be the outcome?
The ODI series.
Right.
Do you know what? We have to remember that in ODI cricket and then in Bangladesh, listen, Bangladesh are a serious ODI side, you know.
Right.
Put it this way. I think Bangladesh have reached a point now in ODI cricket that only they can beat themselves. If you catch my drift, they're now good enough in ODI cricket where they shouldn't fear any team in ODI cricket, and certainly at home. This isn't
100%.
If it was Test cricket, that's a different matter altogether. But at home in ODI cricket, Bangladesh are supposed to believe they can defeat any side.
And the last time they lost the ODI series at home was 2016 against England too, and that was a cracking series, 2-1. It wasn't like England just came in and strolled over. It was a competitive series. So, like you said, I think Bangladesh, they've shown they're capable of beating anyone, especially their rise in ODI cricket has been like so. It's been one to watch for the fans. I sort of feel like Bangladesh in ODIs, like it's a bit of a weird comparison, but I feel like West Indies in Tests are sort of like that team where like West Indies they're not a top 4-5 side, but they're growing eventually. But for Bangladesh in ODIs, I feel they could have the potential to be a top 5 side. Like you still have your India, Australia, and England and whatnot, but I think Bangladesh can make a serious push in this format.
Well, listen, you only have to look at Bangladesh's record in the last few years in ODI cricket to know that nobody sees them as a walkover Remember, they turned us over in the Caribbean, much less at home. So yeah, we'll see how that series goes, though. Non-stop cricket.
Yeah, for sure. And the New Zealand-England Test match, I mean, that's just Test match at its best, eh?
Well, if England knew how to play grind ball, they wouldn't have lost that Test match. That's all I say.
just like Jason Holder said, but yeah.
Anyways, listen, I'm going to go to the next guest.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for
no worries. Take care, yeah?
You too, man.
Cool. Right. So, Demo, what I'm going to do here. So, Ravi is in the background. Thank you, by the way, 007 for the super chat. Much appreciated. Demo, I'm going to bring on two people at the same time. I don't know how I've never done this before, people, so I don't know how mad this is going to work. Demo's got a mask on, so I don't know what's going on. I don't know if we're going to be able to hear him. Let me bring on Ravi anyways. Ravi, how you doing? Give me 1 sec. I'm just bringing on Demo as well. Right.
Yo. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good, man. You're outside. But
yeah, bro, I'm in like 36 degrees. My fingers are numb, so I'm not gonna stay long. So I'll just let Ravi have the floor after this. All right?
Okay, yeah, go on, do your thing.
So I know we had a little tit for tat on Twitter. All right, I think we had them. Like for me, this could have been so much better for us. When we had them at 36 for 4, 2 quick wickets, and then they had 2 new batsmen coming. And I don't know why, and I think everybody was complaining about Chase was bowling and Holder was running in bowling some little donkey drop, and they had deep square leg, deep what do you call that, deep point, and all of these things, and the guys were able to work themselves in and build a partnership. And for me, that was just so ridiculous. I just couldn't understand, and we don't know how to keep our foot in somebody's neck, if you want to put it that way. And it's like Craig was like, okay, we were under a lot of pressure. Let's contain now. Since we brought it back, let's contain. Because I don't know why you need a deep square leg and a deep point for 2 new batsmen. It made no sense. So for me, it could have been better, but I'll take it at the end of the day. Like you said, we should let it breathe. And and I guess we can work. If somebody had said to me, that's the score at the end of the first day, if I wanted it, I'd have probably take it. The last thing is,
the
last thing is, because I have like 10% now. The last thing is, I think we have a studio batting lineup, because in theory, we bat all the way to like Alzarri at number what is he batting at, like 9?
Number 9, yeah.
So if we have Alzarri batting at number 9, in theory it's supposed to be like really good. But we know our middle order is brittle, and so I think this whole test match is going to be a battle of the middle orders and the lower orders, right? And so in theory, I think ours should be doing better. So Jason Holder, he needs to step up big time. The Silvers of this world, he's been in some good form of late, so he needs to step up. And because I mean, Craig and Tage didn't get any runs in the warm-up, but I don't know if that's anything to go by. But like you said, we are very dependent on them. And for me, if they don't make any runs, those guys need to step up, because whoever wins the battle of the middle order, I think will win the test series. So that automatically means I'm giving West Indies a chance to win this test match. I know I might sound crazy, but I am giving West Indies a chance to win this first test. I thought it could be better, but I'll say that.
Let me ask you this, Demo. What are you taking as an acceptable? Let's just assume, let's just say South Africa make 330.
Yeah.
What are you taking as an acceptable first innings total by the West Indies that would make you say, okay, you did all right?
300.
Okay.
I mean, listen, didn't we get 300 in Australia?
Yes, 333.
We did. Yeah, we did. And I mean, listen, it was fast, bouncy tracks. We had the number 1 test bowler in Pat Cummins and a lot of quick pace over there. Nathan Lyon and all of these guys. So it's not like it's out of the blue to get 300. So I take 300, and then we can work from there.
Okay, 300 people. Demo says 300.
By the way,
Yeah.
I don't think South Africa is just gonna get 350 because Janssen can bat. He can bat. So if they don't get him, I don't think they're gonna get him out early. But I'm hoping that they do because like the way how Craig sets his feet, I just don't understand. He's so defensive at times for no reason. Like I think he's just gonna spread the field and try to contain, and they're just gonna milk around, and they're gonna pile up about 410.
Oh my gosh! No.
Unfortunately.
No. If South Africa make 410, the game's finished there and then. But
All right,
you know
so
what?
I have 5%, bro. So I'm gonna what?
Okay, I'll just you might have to just listen to this because maybe Ravi will answer it then. But the last thing I was just going to say though is it Craig's fault, or do you also look at the bowlers? There's a lot of senior players in that team. Demo's energy ended, so Ravi's going to have to answer this one. Thank you, Demo, for being on though. Demo's missing the rest of the show. So Ravi, I was just about to say to Demo, because I think it's a valid argument to make about Craig and not putting the pressure on, right? I think the partnership he's talking about was when it was Peterson, maybe Klaassen. Yeah, Klaassen, because I think Gabriel got Klaassen out with a bumper. And on comms, can't remember who, but someone said, why is Craig not turning to whoever, whether Roach, whether Gabriel, whoever? And the point I was thinking was, but where's the senior guys around Craig telling him, come on, let's give the ball to Shannon? Or where's Shannon walking up to Craig saying, give me the ball, it's my time now? Like, so I hear the critique of Craig in terms of maybe not giving the ball to X, Y, Z and kind of cranking the pressure on. But I do think for a captain, you've got to have a think tank around you. You've got to have a brains trust who come together and say, yeah, maybe now's not the time to be bowling Roston Chase. Let's turn to the quicks and really crank the pressure on. So I just wonder who the brains trust is around Craig for when we see some of those negative moves. But anyways, Ravi, how you doing? Over to you.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me, Mash. It's always a pleasure. Well, actually, this is my debut on your show. Come to think of it. But very good day of Test cricket all round. Fantastic start from South Africa, only to be thwarted by a great comeback from the West Indies bowlers. Perhaps a bit of a gift wrap from Tony De Zorzi, his debut, coming in at 3. Gift wrapping the Windies with a lovely run out after a sublime start to the innings. But I have to say, your question that you posed about having a support system, a sort of a decision-making unit is absolutely pivotal. If you look at India, when Kohli was captain, you've had the likes of maybe Pujara, you had the likes of Rahane, and even Rishabh Pant at times, they would actually keep talking to the captain, not in the case of undermining him, but more to sort of feed the engine, as it were, just to say that, these are sort of the tactics you need to consider. Circa South Africa, if you look back to our good old days back in 2011, 2012, Graham Smith had a plethora of people he could actually turn to. So the decision didn't solely sit squarely with Smith. He had a good support system in the form of De Villiers, later down the line Du Plessis, to name a few as well. So I think you need to have a think tank, especially when you're playing Test cricket, because it is a session-by-session game. It's not a in and out T20 sort of situation. You're going to be laboring. You're going to be play against some very good opposition at times, and you need to have that support system intact. So,
from the South African perspective, how did you view it? Yeah, just I'm going to leave it general like that though. So 141 opening partnership, 221 for 2 when De Zorzi went to obviously 314 for 8. South Africa's day, or even Stevens, or did it raise some uncomfortable worries that South African cricket fans would have had before the series anyway. How do you assess it from the South African point of view?
That's a very good question. A very valid, a couple of valid points from the other viewers as well about South Africa's batting woes. These are known concerns, Mesh. These are items that we've known and tackled for a while. Hence the reason why you're seeing a slightly different outfit than what is the norm or what was the norm. I would say as recent as the last test in Australia. Just to give context for the viewers, South Africa actually toured Australia just after the West Indies. And in a very strange twist of fate, if you will, if you want to call it that, the West Indies outperformed South Africa in terms of the batting side of things, particularly. I think we saw centuries from Brathwaite, Chanderpaul, to name a few. South Africa didn't muster. I think Verreynne top scored with about 60 odd runs, and he's not even playing in this particular test match here at Centurion. So what's happened in South Africa is that we've had wholesale changes in not only the lineup of the team, but also the coaching staff as well. We have to bear in mind that Mark Boucher is no longer involved in the team. In fact, he wasn't even involved in the team when they toured Australia. They had an interim coach as well at that point in time. So they've got Shukri Conrad, who's quite a well-established figure in South African cricket. So much so he's been involved in the developmental and the various tiers of infrastructure here in South Africa. So the team that was selected, more than likely, and this seems to be the general sort of comment and feel about the team, is that more than likely he's worked with these guys in the past in one way, shape, or form. Hence the reason guys like Sunyaran Muthusamy might have been selected over other notable picks that could have been considered for today's match. He definitely wanted to go with a more batting-friendly outfit than what was the case before, because we had a very funnily enough, we had a very old-school type of test lineup where we had a very long tail, kind of similar to the West Indies teams of the 90s. We had a very long tail, he had a bit of a collapso, and that was something we were accustomed to for the greater part of 2 years. But now it looks like what they're trying to do is sort of change it, turn it on its head, and have a much stronger lineup with a string of batters as far as 7, with a bit of tail wagging from about 8 and 9 specifically. There was a point as well. What would South Africa end up scoring? In my opinion, I agree with some of the viewers. Jansen can bat, definitely, without question. I don't think they'll get as close as to 400, but I think they can definitely muster up 30 to 40 runs, taking the score as close to 350. This is actually a pass score at Centurion as well. We have to bear in mind the average first inning score is roughly 315 to 320, if memory serves. So this is kind of on par already. While I have to say that it was a fantastic comeback from the West Indies, there were a couple brain fades as well from the South African batters that lean towards the score as we see at the moment.
So Demo said before his phone died that an acceptable riposte from West Indies in their first innings would be getting 300. What do you think is realistic? Do you?
They're not going to get that. They're not getting that. I'll be honest, and I'm saying this because I'm back in the Windies.
Dream shattered just like that.
No, they're not getting that. I'll be honest with you. So the bowling lineup for South Africa, while they also wholesale changes there, you have to bear in mind Lungi and Gidi is not playing in this match, which is a bit of a surprise because Centurion is actually, in a way, his home ground. You've also got Sunyaran Muthusamy coming in as well, who's only got, I think he's got 1 or 2 tests. He's played in India before. So he's yet to play in South Africa in a test match he batted the other day. He batted earlier today. So from that point of view, yes, there's a small degree of inexperience in the team. But again, you have to bear in mind this is quite a difficult wicket to bat on. From the second innings, or rather the first innings of the opposition. So from day 2 onwards, it does become trickier to bat on at Centurion. So I think there's going to be a lot of action there for the likes of Rabada, Nortje, and they've been the standout guys, and Janssen more recently. So it is going to be quite tricky. I personally, I think Tage and Craig will probably be the best signs of the sort of opposition, if you will. With a bit of resistance from perhaps Mayers and Holder. I will say that on paper, it seems that the West Indies have much more batting up until the very last known batter, which is Alzarri Joseph. So I would agree with, sorry, was it Chemo?
Demo.
Demo, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm thinking of Chemo Paul. I would agree that there's much more batting in terms of the side that's been presented by the West Indies on paper. But again, it's not a sense of reality really when you think about Centurion and the sort of the pace and the bounce it presents from day 2 onwards. Personally, I think the West Indies will muster up possibly 260. I'll give them that. I think I've actually told my brother-in-law very recently that I even put a wager. I said Tage is going to score a century in this tour. It's questionable whether you'll do it in Centurion or the Wanderers. Personally, I think it'll be the Wanderers, not Centurion, but I'm confident that Tage will score 100 in this tour, and definitely you'll see a big score from Craig Brathwaite in one of the 2 tests.
So 260. So you're saying West Indies 260 in response. I mean, ultimately, we have to wait, as all of us will have to do. We'll have to wait and see. I think I'm inclined to edge more towards what you're saying, that I think West Indies will. I don't think we'll get skittled out like we did in the Caribbean, but I just think that I just don't see Rabada, Nortje, Janssen, never even mind Kurtzer. Kurtzer's a wild card to West Indian fans because we don't really know anything about him. But the first 3, certainly, what I don't see them doing is bowling a lot of loose deliveries. I see them. So in the first session and 3 quarters, West Indies struggled to find the right line and length, right? I do not see Nortje, Rabada and Janssen taking a long time to work out what the right line and length is to bowl on this track. So, and this is why I made that point early on. I don't know if you were on the show from the start. This is why I made the point in the kind of monologue at the start. The way to get wickets against us will be just building pressure. And that's what I guarantee Rabada, Nortje. So it doesn't even matter if Rabada, Nortje and Janssen bowl well to get wickets. Their pressure will force wickets to fall. And that's what I think the difference will be between the 2 bowling attacks. There won't be any kind of, okay, here's an hour of play where South Africa are just giving us free runs to go and hit. And I think that kind of pressure will just lead to wickets naturally falling. That's my personal opinion.
I would agree with you. And what I like about this opening batting pair, this is the first time I've been really confident in the West Indies opening batting pair in many years, right? It's been a long time. And fair enough, Tage is fairly new to the scene, but I like the fact that both Brathwaite and Tage, they sort of grit it out, they grind it out, and that's, in my opinion, how you should be playing Test cricket. I know there seems to be a bit of notoriety around Bazball, and there's some fans of it, some fans, there are some people are not fans of it, fair enough. But I think that's going to be an interesting contest to see tomorrow. You're going to get the likes of Rabada and Nortje trying to reverse swing the ball as early as the first session. And that's going to be very interesting. The ball's going to nip back and it's going to be very tricky to grind it out in the very first session of day 2.
Well, we shall see. Listen, Ravi, thank you for coming on. I'm going to make sure I spoke to Khalid earlier on, so I should be jumping on Cricket Fanatics magazine at some point in the next few days. So people, I said it earlier on, Ravi is part of Cricket Fanatics magazine. Do go and subscribe to their content as well, particularly for the duration of this particular tour of South Africa, because that's where you'll get a real good understanding of the South African cricket and the South African perspective on everything. You know, it's important to know what our friendly rivals are saying about the game as well, so we can assess things from both sides of the coin. But Ravi, listen, thank you for coming on, man. I'm gonna end the show with Gio.
Thank you. Take care.
Much appreciated. Yeah, cheers. Thank you. Yes, Gio. Last caller, Gio. I said 11 o'clock that I'd end the show. We're 23 minutes over, but you're getting to close the show off, Gio.
Hello. Can you hear me?
All good, man.
Oh yeah. Thank you for having me on. Before I know that earlier you and I we had the back and forth earlier on Twitter. Yeah, I was kind of overacting, but at the same time, I would like to. I'm just wondering, like, why West Indies and England is the only countries that uses the Duke's ball, right? And as you know, the Duke's ball offers more swing. Like, why can't we just use the ball that the rest of the countries use, the Kookaburra ball?
Interestingly, I don't know if anyone's heard about this, but in English county cricket, they have. I read about this the other day. They've changed their for the first 2 rounds, or maybe it's the first 3 rounds of their first class championship this year, or they're bowling with the Kookaburra ball. And I think that's with a view to ensuring that the type of players who then come through their first class system are essentially answering your question, are used to a different type of ball and can't just bowl with the Dukes and be excellent with the Dukes. I would love to see that kind of forward thinking in the Caribbean.
Yes, me too. Because the Dukes, because the Kookaburra ball, they use it in Australia, they use it in New Zealand, South Africa, Sri Lanka, Pakistan. They use it in majority of the places, right? Because I feel like with the Kookaburra ball, like, you know, in the Dukes ball, right? Like you see Kemar Roach, he performs better in the Caribbean and England because he knows how to swing that ball. That ball swings for longer, right? But the Kookaburra ball, like, it flattens out real quick. It doesn't offer that much swings, so you gotta bowl with a lot more pace. Your line gotta be spot on, and you gotta bowl consistently. So I think a lot of our players, they're just bowling the lengths and just expecting the ball to swing. And when we go away conditions, the ball is not swinging, because I see a couple of the balls that Kemar Roach is bowling, and normally in the Caribbean or England, the ball would swing either left or right. But when you go overseas, it's not going to swing at all. So I think that was part of the problem. So that's why I was saying it earlier.
I think that's a valid argument, Gio, because, and I didn't want to say this earlier on, but it's valid to say it now off the back of the point you're making. There was a period of play today where, and this will sound like I'm being harsh, but I'm not even meaning to be harsh. I just think it's facts. There's a period of play today where Holder was bowling, and actually when Kemar was bowling as well, where I was just like, this is just medium pace though. And like, don't get me wrong, like it wasn't like the batters were licking them down and smashing fours or anything like that, but it just wasn't threatening. And I was like, this, and I guess you've just answered the question for me, because I was watching it going, how comes this bowling gets them wickets in the Caribbean, but I'm watching this same bowling in South Africa, and it looks like I wouldn't get out to any of this bowling, much less the South African batters. So I do think your argument is valid. I do think we have to look at maybe the role the ball plays and what we can do to make our bowlers more effective away from home. I think we had a guest on a couple of weeks back, was it Shane, who made that point that we don't often take 20 wickets. Forget 10. We don't often take 20 wickets in a test match, certainly away from home. So yeah, I think there's some validity in it. What I will just say before you jump back in is I remember that who I think it was Johnny Grave who said this to me, that West Indies made the change in 2018, I think it was, to start using the Duke's balls at home. And they realized that it had a much greater impact in Caribbean conditions. But I just don't think that when it's now 2023, maybe we need to look at that again and just say, well, it's great that it has an impact in Caribbean conditions, but maybe there's a reason why we never win any tests away from home, apart from against Zimbabwe, Bangladesh, etc.
Yes, because you see the irony part about it, right? Like, say for example, like I could the West Indies bowling. I see the same thing when we go to New Zealand too. Even like the lines and lengths that we're bowling is just not working, because I feel like if you can master that ball that offers less swing, the Duke's ball, like when you see players like Boomer and Trent Bolt and Tim Southern, Pat Cummins and Mitchell Stark, when they come to the Caribbean and when they go to England and play with the Duke's ball, right? They be taking hella wickets because they're already play with a ball that offers less variations already. And then their pitches tend to be flatter. So for example, right? You can see in Australia, right? Obviously, West Indies didn't really perform the second test, but in the first test, like you can see their pitches tend to be more flatter, right?
Yeah.
So when they come to the Caribbean and England, that offers a lot of swing, they've been running through teams because they already know. And then, New Zealand, like, really and truly, like, they got some real flat pitches in New Zealand.
Yeah, 100%.
So, so, but the thing about it is they know how to bowl on flat pitches with that ball. So if they come on assisted pitches, like in the Caribbean, they're going to destroy us every time. So that was one of the main reasons I wanted to say. And also, I was actually surprised by the conditions today because South Africa is technically, if you check the stats, it's been one of the hardest places to bat on. Like throughout, like the only teams that, and it's very similar to the Australian conditions. So I could have tell them from beginning that South Africa, Australia got very similar conditions. That's why South Africa normally beats Australia and vice versa because they got way similar conditions. So I could have tell them that Roach is not going to be very effective. I don't need to be down on him, but to use that ball, you need to have more pace. Or you need to can be ball on a line like Kyle Mayers does. So that's why Bolin and Jimmy Henderson can be taking wickets because even though they don't got much of that pace nowadays, they bowl a consistent line length. So, and they're not trying to swing the ball too much. They're just trying to get you off your spot and just get maiden, and let you force you to play the ball. Because as you can see, it's the same thing that was happening in Australia. All that we're doing was just leaving the ball, leaving. But normally in the Caribbean, you can't be just leaving the ball. You got to play every time because the ball is going to swing. So all you got to do, when our players are bowling, they just be lifting their bat up in the air. And because they know the pitch is going to carry the ball over the wicket. So they're not going to get. So that's why they're leaving a lot of times. So that's the only thing I want to say about that. But other than that, it was pretty good. And hopefully we can wrap it up. Less than 350.
So just before you go then, let me ask you this. If Multi isn't fit for the second test, are you swapping Jordan for Roach?
Yes, I have to because his track record is 40. His track record is 40 away because remember at one point, I don't know if you noticed at one point, like what's it called again? Like Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson, they didn't really take them away tests because they weren't performing. Or even Mark Wood. Yeah. Mark Wood is the specific one I'm referencing. Mark Wood in England, he takes his wicket around 18, but away he can't bowl good away. He can't bowl good all that.
Don't you mean what's his name? Wokes.
No, is it Wokes or Wood? I know one of them is like Wood. Wood is like really good at England, but he's just horrible away because so sometimes I know that all right, we don't really got that much resources, but sometimes it gotta be like, okay, all right. Like definitely for Roach, I would not he can't really play overseas because obviously in Sri Lanka, he ain't gonna take no wickets in Sri Lanka. It's hard in Sri Lanka. Australia, no. South Africa, no. New Zealand, no. Pakistan, hell no, because the face is flat. And then in England, India, no. So you can only keep it for the Caribbean. So I think what we should do, we should either have them practice with the ball, like probably like 2-3 rounds in the Caribbean if we could afford it, and then see how it works. So because like maybe we could say, okay, right, we can use the Duke's ball at home for our advantage, but we can know how to bowl with the Kookaburra ball. So that's why I think they had a hard time adjusting to why they're bowling.
Well, listen, like I say, I'm going to note it down because it's a video to do on this channel, probably at the end of the test series. Because, like I say, we salute Kimar Roach's kind of commitment to West Indies cricket. We salute the fact that he's in our top 10 bowlers of all time in terms of wickets taken. But we're just going to have to be the argument that a lot of fans are coming with is we're going to now have to start being a bit more pragmatic about how we utilize it going forward. So I see your argument, Gio. But listen, Gio, I know you waited a long time to get on, and thank you for coming on. I'm gonna call it there, Gio. An hour and 20 minutes of the show tonight. But any last comments before I close the show off?
The only thing I would like to say is like, thank you. I was being patient, but I appreciate you. I just wanted to get that point of view of like how us of like, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. Like only of the 11 test nations, 2 uses the Dukes ball, 1 uses the SCG ball that India used, and the next 8 uses the cooker ball. So that's what I'm just saying. It's just the Mets, right? It's just the Mets. Yeah. And that's what we normally do against England, because why? They're the same ball as us. So, right?
The evidence is there. The evidence is there. So people, you heard it there from Gio. Can't really argue with the evidence. But people, listen. Gio, thank you for coming on. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
No worries, man.
Enjoy the rest of your night.
No problem. Thanks, Gio. Listen, people, that's the end of the show, you know. Thank you, anybody who's come through for the live. Thank you, anybody who pressed like, anybody who was new, who pressed subscribe. Thank you very much for coming through. I've seen loads of you going back and forth in the comments. Remember, you don't have to come on the live if you don't want to. The comment section is just as much part of the live as anything else. So I love to see the comments going back and forth as well. Thank you to 007 with the super chat. Look in the description for the video, people, if you haven't already done so. Our Discord channel is there. We set that up in the last few days. Go and be part of the community there. If you want to be at work and enter like the Discord chat whilst the test match is going on. When Discord unblock me, I might add some more channels to the Discord page as well. So join that. Find us on Facebook, Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Twitter and Instagram at Carib Cricket. Subscribe to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast on YouTube. Become a patron of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. You know the drill, people. I'm going to try. I don't know if I've got time to, but the aim for this series is to try and do a live every day. It doesn't seem manageable, but I'm going to try my best to at least do maybe 3 of the 5 days and kind of do a live show. But we'll see, people. Thanks anyways, everyone, for coming through. Thanks to all the people who came through on the live. Demo, Ravi, Mr. Lover, Gio, Hakeem, Faraz. If I missed anyone out, thank you all for coming on the live show as well. Take it easy, people. Enjoy day 2. We'll be on Twitter or the Discord channel talking about the test match. So hit us up there as we go through the day and rally around the West Indies as ever. Peace.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.